Hi, welcome back to my channel, and today we are tier listing all of the 8th Doctor Audio Adventures Series 3. So I have had a nightmare with all of this because I bought a new camera to put on my computer so I didn't have to use my phone to record everything. I got my microphone out, I had this whole nice setup, and then I had issues with the autofocusing on the camera which I just couldn't fix no matter what I did. So that's a load of money wasted. Yeah, so I'm back to using my mobile phone as a recording system, so fun times, very frustrating. I'm annoyed about that. If anyone knows how to change autofocusing, please let me know. Anyway, we're going to get straight on with tier listing series 3 of the 8th Doctor Audio Adventures. So the first episode is Orbis. So this adventure takes place roughly 600 years after the last adventure of series 2, for the Doctor at least. First thing to say is I love the sound design. Once again, it's brilliant. The Keltons are kind of like a jellyfishy type people, I think, and there's an ever so slight wibbly wobbliness to their speech as they talk, and it just really does make you think that there's a jellyfishy type person speaking. It's just really well done. It's just the tiny little things that you wouldn't necessarily think about, but clearly someone has, and it's fantastic. It really does add to the whole thing. The writing as well, again, it's just on point, and the continuity of this series is fabulous as well. The fact that it's an audio adventure series rather than a TV series means that you don't really generally have to stick to continuity as much because people don't necessarily listen to these in order, whereas on TV you do watch them in order. This series really should be listened to completely in order. Do not listen to the 8th Doctor Adventures out of order for the Lucy Miller series at least, because they're fabulous and you should listen to them all. But there's so much continuity in there. Like Lucy says that it's Sunday and she wants 5 more minutes of sleep and stuff like that, and that's the little things that have been mentioned previously, with the Doctor having mentioned that with Lucy, and it's just little things. I love the little things. One thing I should say, I've already mentioned that it's been 600 years for the Doctor, which you may notice means that the Doctor would be well over 900 years old at this point, which is his age at the start of the TV series in New Who. These audios were made during New Who's run, so it wasn't exactly unknown that the Doctor was still going to be 903 or something when he was in New Who. But they actually do address that here. When the Doctor talks about having lived on this planet for 600 years, he actually does very clearly say that he sort of adjusts his age depending on what a year on whatever planet is. So he adjusts it for each planet. So in Earth years, he's 903 or whatever in New Who, but he's not that in Gallifreyan years. You know, there's adjustments going on at all times. And he does say that he tends to round down. So the Doctor also lies about his age. The whole episode has a load of great Doctor and Lucy moments, especially when Lucy finds out that the Doctor is alive and well and has just been living on a different planet for 600 years. And there's a lot of slapping going on. I love Lucy Miller. Love her. Overall, the episode's fine. I gave it a 4. There is quite a bleak ending to the episode, but I think that really does drive home certain things about the Doctor and for the Doctor to understand. So I do think it really works having the slightly bleak ending. And I also appreciate as well, with regards to this episode, how they brought the Doctor back. At the end of the last season, there was a "is he alive" kind of query. Obviously there's a series 3 and a 4 and many more 8th Doctor audios and Doctors 9 onwards as well. So yes, he was alive. But the point is, the way they brought him back into this and said yes, he's alive, I quite liked how that worked. It wasn't a moment where it's like a slap in the face to the audience. It was a genuinely decently written story for it. Last thing to mention is that there is a post-theme scene, which I missed the first time I listened to this audio drama, and I'm glad that I re-listened to it and went through the end theme, because there is a scene at the very end after the theme has rolled through, so do not miss it. Now, where do I place this? Okay, so I think I might put this into upgrade in progress. So the thing is, it is a good story. I like how they brought the Doctor back. I do think overall it's good. However, I think the best parts of it are the Doctor and Lucy moments with the emotional beats and the Lucy anger. I do like all of those moments more than the actual story of the episode. So I think it's upgrade in progress just purely because the actual story of the episode took a backseat for me compared to the Doctor and Lucy moments. And the MVP for the episode is Janos. As with the previous audio dramas, I have no pictures because they're audio dramas, so enjoy a name floating through the stars. The quote of the episode is a really cute little one from the Doctor, and I cannot remember where this comes into it or why he says it or who he says it to, which means there's no spoilers for you because I don't remember. But it's a really cute quote, and I just think it really speaks for the Doctor and his motivations in life in general. And it is something that comes back in series 4 as well, and I just like it. So, the Doctor is speaking to someone, and he says, "I never wanted devotion. All I wanted was a friend." So sweet. I just like it. I think it's cute. Moving on to the next episode, Hot House. So this episode got a 5, and I really liked it. I'm not sure if I liked it on my first listen as much, but on my second listen I really did. If you are a fan of Doctor Who body horror type stuff, like what we wish the Tortured Sideman episode had have been, you'll like this episode. It's good. So this one starts off with a load of news reports, and it really does feel like that RTD1 era of New Who, where it really brings the world together. And I do like that, not just because of the nostalgia aspect for me, but also because it just really works to set the scene of the episode. The villains of this episode, not really a spoiler, I'm pretty sure it's in the synopsis, and if it's not, it's on the cover art. The villains of the episode are Krynoids, and there are links back to the original Krynoid episode, which I think was the second Doctor era, and there's mentions of Colin Thackeray from that episode, so it does link into that as well, and I really enjoyed that. I don't remember enjoying the original Krynoid episode that much, so I wasn't going into this expecting to love it, so it is a shock to me that I gave it a 5. But it is just that good. I thought that this episode, going into it, was going to be an environmental piece because of the way it sort of sets up, but actually it turned out into a horror episode of refugees being experimented on, and it's a lot, okay? Just be aware if you're going to listen to this one is a lot, okay? Just prepare yourself for that. It's fantastic in regards to the whole horror aspect of Doctor Who, and body horror especially. The sound design of that, again, just be ready. But it's so good. It's really, really good. And in the current climate of the world we're living in at the moment, it was a lot. It's even more horrifying than when I first listened to it. There's a scene where the Doctor finds the first failed experiment, and it's really heartbreaking. It's really sad. It's quite horrific. That the person is literally begging for death. It's so bad. But the whole episode, to be honest, is really heartbreaking and tense as well. It's a really great adventure, and it grips you. It's a very gripping one. There's also the aspect, again with the continuity, that they don't just forget about what happened in the episode prior to this one. The Doctor is still unsure about Lucy after 600 years of spending his life on another planet and not really remembering Lucy that well. He does still have those sort of iffy moments with Lucy, and it does continue on from the last episode, and I really like that. Again, it's just continuity being on point. The makers of these audio dramas just know what they're doing, okay? They know what they're doing. There is another post-theme scene in this episode as well, so don't miss that. Although I feel like it kind of went nowhere. It was just an addition for the sake of it rather than having any purpose or meaning to it, so I was a bit confused on that one. It just didn't feel like it went anywhere. But the episode itself was brilliant, and this whole time I thought I was going to put it into fantastic, and now I'm thinking, oh, I might actually put it into Uwu. It's just one of those episodes that I think if I was going to say to someone, listen to this audio drama as an 8th Doctor audio drama, it might be one of these. It's not one of the best episodes for showing the 8th Doctor at his best, but it's a brilliant episode for showing how amazing Big Finish is and the stories that they tell. So I feel like this one should be an Uwu. The MVP for the episode is Hazel. And the quote of the episode is one between Hazel and the Doctor. And it's just something that, as I said, this episode really does, in the current climate of the world, speak quite strongly. And this quote goes to show what I mean by that. So Hazel says to the Doctor, "Last year, when the refugee crisis first hit, the decision was made to shut down the Eurozone borders. With millions trying to get out of North Africa and the Black Sea states, they had no choice. It was either that or be overwhelmed." And the Doctor says, "Hazel, there are always choices to be made. I'd almost forgotten how adept you humans are at making the wrong ones. It's almost as if you have no capacity to learn from your past mistakes." Do I really need to explain that one? I felt the Doctor kind of covered my thoughts on that one. Next up is The Beast of Orlok. So this episode got a 4, And I feel like I enjoyed it more the first time I listened to it rather than the second time round. Not that I didn't enjoy it the second time round, I did. I just think that from memory alone, I might have given this one a 5 before re-listening to it. But then that might be because there's a twist in the tale, and whilst I did guess the twist the first time I listened to it, obviously I didn't have the confirmation of it until after. So it might just be something like that. It just doesn't hit as well the second time you listen to it. Maybe that's it. I don't know, but I still think it was a good episode. There was a really great cold open to it, which really set the whole thing up really well. I loved that. Also, I love the fact that Miriam Margolyes is in this one. We love Miriam Margolyes in this household. This episode is very fairy tale-esque, grim fairy tale-esque. It's got that sort of setting and vibe to it. It's a late medieval, early modern village in Germany, and it's got the fairy tale vibes to it with the storyline. So that's quite interesting. I like how they've done that and made it realistic as well. And even though it's taken inspiration from fairy tales, it is completely original and unique. The episode has a Chekhov's Big Red Button, which I love. I love Chekhov's Big Red Button. Just like Chekhov's Janus Thorn in the Tom Baker Leela seasons. Leela! But better, because it's a big red button and it does come back into play. You can be sure of that. Although Lucy does admit that it's not a button, it's a switch, and it's not red, it's green. That's all I have to say on this one really, because most of the thoughts are sort of spoilery. So the Beast of Orlok, I think I might put into... I might put it into Fantastic. And by might, I mean I have done. It's in Fantastic. The MVP for the episode is Frau Todd. And the quote of the episode is a little jokey conversation between the Doctor and Lucy. The Doctor has been unconscious for a little while and he's now waking up with Lucy. So this is how it goes. Lucy says, "Doctor, you're awake." And the Doctor says, "I have been for some time. So, where are we?" Lucy says, "In jail." The Doctor says, "Did we pass go?" Lucy says, "Afraid not." And the Doctor replies, "Shame, we could have used that 200 quid to bribe the jailer." I love my Doctor and Lucy moments. Next up is Wirren Dawn. So this episode got a 4, and I do feel like it was good on both first and second listens, but I had some sort of barrier preventing me from really loving it. I don't know what it was, but there was just something preventing me from really loving it. But I did enjoy it. This is one of those stories where Lucy wants to leave immediately. Like, they land and she's like, "Nope, don't want to be here, let's go." And even the Doctor agrees. So it is quite a different take on an adventure where they both just straight away want to go. They're like, "Nope, this is not a place we want to be, let's head off." And you don't really see that a lot in Doctor Who. Usually they both are happy to be there. Sometimes if the companion wants to go or doesn't want to be there particularly, the Doctor kind of enforces them to stay. But in this case, they're both like, "Nope, let's go." And they just can't. It's set up as this particular place and time that they've landed in. The Doctor says it's one of the bloodiest wars in human history, and he knows that he can't do anything to change that. It's one of those fixed point scenarios. So even he's very much, "Let's go, I don't want to be here." And it gives such a bleak outlook to the whole episode from the start, which is quite a nice setup. As I say, it's different to how we usually see these things set up. I have an issue with the episode that, whilst it's part of the story, it still makes me uncomfortable. There's a lot of racism in the episode. Not in typical modern day racism. It's racism against... I don't even know, to be honest. Basically, these humans are on a planet, and the planet was colonised by humanity. And the original settlers are now called Indigs, which is short for Indigenous, and it's a slur. I'm very confused about it because none of those humans are indigenous to the planet. They colonised said planet. None of them are indigenous to the planet. So Indig and indigenous doesn't even work. But yeah, there's one character I think in it who is indigenous, and the other characters keep calling him an Indig and stuff like this. And it is very... It just gets uncomfortable. I suppose it's the point that you're supposed to be uncomfortable because of it, because it's not exactly a nice thing. But yeah, I don't like racism of any kind, like space racism as well. It's just, yeah, it just makes me uncomfortable hearing it all the time. Don't be racist. Just don't be rude, don't be racist, don't be horrible to people. How hard is it to just be nice or not say anything? I can't really go into anything else because everything else is spoilers. I only really had the 2 notes on this one that I could say. So I think for this one, I might put it into upgrade in progress again. I thought the ending was a bit odd. Not bad, just odd. It's one of those moral dilemma type things, and yeah, I'm not really sure how you'd go about that in the real world. So yeah, it's an odd episode. It's good, but it's odd. There is no MVP for this episode, but there is a no VP because someone pissed me off enough that I had to put them as no VP, and that is Solway. The quote of this episode is one that I think resonates with the world even now. You'll see what I mean when you hear it. So as I've said, this is one of the bloodiest wars in human history, and it's the humans against the Wirrn, which are big bug creatures. And the Wirrn Queen says, "I see only two courses, war or peace. Peace means survival." Call me a pacifist. I don't like war. I don't like people hurting other people. It's usually just a load of rich white men in power who want to remain in power or get more power and money, and always at the expense of everybody else. So, peace means survival for everyone. War is bad. The next episode is The Scapegoat. So this is an episode that I really wanted to get to the first time round because Lucy's wearing a lovely dress on the cover art, and I was like, I want to know why she's wearing the dress. Is she going to a ball? Is it like a fairy tale-esque one again? Not exactly. So the Doctor and Lucy land in Nazi-occupied Paris, and Lucy goes to not the Moulin Rouge, but something similar to that, like a cabaret type place. Yeah, that's the reason for the fancy dress. Not quite the fairy tale-esque thing I was expecting, but it's fun either way. I gave this episode a 5. I did still enjoy this episode a lot, and I thought it was a really interesting concept for an episode, especially with the backstory of it. We do get a few good Doctor moments in this one as well. Paul McGann really is the Doctor, okay? The 8th Doctor is fantastic and deserves so much love and respect from this fandom because he is phenomenal. The movie does not do him justice. Listen to some audios. Okay? The movie doesn't do him justice. The audios give him the stories to actually show who he is as the Doctor. Even the Night of the Doctor short showed who he was as the Doctor, and it's brilliant. But listen to the audios, please. Although, having said that, the Doctor does lie about corsetry, which... no, we don't like that. We don't like lies about corsetry. Corsets were not torture devices. They're actually much better for the female body than bras are today. I'm sick of the lies about corsetry. Stop it. They're so much more comfortable and safe to be worn than a modern day bra is. The reason people today seem to struggle with it is because they're being tight-laced into these corsets, which was not a thing that happened regularly. You couldn't do it without the metal eyelets. And the metal eyelets weren't even a thing until mid to late Victorian era. Corsetry from before that was all stays. You can't tight lace those. It's literally just fabric. You'd break it. You can't do it. And people didn't. Why would you? Women weren't doing that. The corset was supposed to be fitted to your body. Everyone's a different body shape and size. And in history, women were actually considered to be more beautiful if they were a bit curvier because it showed that they were of childbearing ability and whatnot. You didn't even want to be tight-laced. People used padding. The reason women look small in photos and stuff that we have now is because they're photoshopped, for one thing. Yes, there was old-timey Photoshop. It's to do with like blocking things out and whatnot. I don't really know the ins and outs, but look it up, you'll see it. And they use padding. A lot of padding. You know what a bustle is, surely. Imagine that, but like all the way around. I mean, that's not quite what it is, but you get the gist. The point is, it was all an illusion, okay? Women have been casting magic spells over men's eyes for centuries because they've all been padding. Do you think push-up bras are a thing of now? No. I mean, yes, but no, because women have been padding everything out for centuries to get the right silhouette, to get the right form. The Doctor lied about corsetry, okay? The lie in this wasn't even about tight lacing and stuff. That's just something that annoys me because they're not being worn correctly. They were made to the person's body and to the person's exact measurements. And also, you broke it in. They were made originally with whalebone and stuff so that it would mould to your shape with the heat. It's not made correctly nowadays. I mean, proper corsetry artists do make corsets properly. But generally, in film production and whatnot, they don't have time to do that. They'll just make it cheap and quick. And it's not the right shape or size for the actor who wears it. And then they're not even wearing it correctly either, and they're tight-laced into it and stuff. And you're supposed to wear a shift underneath anyway. All I'm saying is the Doctor lied about corsetry, okay? And the lie wasn't even about anything that I've just said. The lie that he says in this episode is that you can't get one on without a maid. That is bullshit, okay? Basically, every woman wore a corset or stays throughout history. That was the support. Nowadays, most women wear a bra. That is the support. Do you really think that working class women who didn't have maids would just not have any kind of support? No, they were all wearing them. Jeez. A bit off topic. Sorry about that. Or not if you're interested in corsetry myths, but Anyway, back to the actual story of the episode. I thought it was good. I thought it was a fun adventure. There was clear danger in it from Nazis and from the other aspect of the story, which I won't go into because of spoilers. It was all quite interesting and fun to follow. And again, the continuity in it is perfect. The Doctor and Lucy Miller series aren't just a bunch of random adventures. They are a clear series with a through line and a story arc, and it's really well laid out. Okay, they're just brilliant. So I think I'll put The Scapegoat into fantastic. It was a good adventure. I don't think it's quite top class quality, but I do really like it, and it has some really good moments in there as well. The MVP of the episode is Max Paul. And as for the quote, my goodness, were there some brilliant quotes to use in this one. But I've gone for one between Lucy and the Doctor, and it's kind of a more personal conversation. So Lucy says, "Sometimes I look at you and you look, well, sad." And the Doctor replies, "Lucy, there's a lot of darkness out there. But you know something? We wouldn't notice any of it if it weren't for all those little pinpricks of light, planets and stars. And that's where I go whenever I feel sad. The next bit of light in the darkness." It's just a nice one for me, especially. I think I've already said on this channel before that I have depression, and when you get down, it's really hard to claw your way back up. I manage mine as best I can, but for other people who aren't necessarily clinically depressed, but do have moments of the world's ending around me sort of thing, it's just nice to see, even though it's a fictional character, it's just nice to see someone like the Doctor who also feels like that and has to look for that tiny pinprick of light to keep on moving. It's just one of those things where I just think it's quite helpful. The next episode is The Cannibalists. This is a fantastic episode again. I gave it a 5, and it really does a good job of making you feel really strong empathy for robots. And it's such an interesting story as well. I did guess the big twist again. Look, I've watched so much TV, I've read so many books. I used to read 3 books a day as a child. I've read so many books, I've watched so much TV and so many movies. I know how it all works. I can generally guess twists a mile off. I'll watch a murder mystery and guess the killer as soon as they walk on screen, and not always when it's the most famous person in the cast. It's not always as simple as that anymore. But yeah, so I did guess the twist, but it's still a good twist, and I did like it, and I liked the whole episode as well. It has a lot of danger aspects for the Doctor and Lucy whilst also not really being about them. It was just really good all round. Phil Davis is in this one, and he is wonderfully sinister and terrifying. He's always brilliant at playing really sinister and villainous roles. I don't know what it is, he's just so good at being scary, and he is very scary in this one. There's a robot in this episode who likes to write poetry, but he writes it all in hexadecimal code, and thankfully the Doctor can understand that, even though Lucy can't. But I really like that. I just thought that was such a sweet thing, and the robot who writes the poetry is really sweet as well. And the poetry is okay. It's not the best poetry I've ever heard, but you know what? He does a good job. He tried something new, and he wasn't letting it go. He was like, I'm going to keep on at it, and he did. Good for him. We applaud him. And that's really all I can say. So I think tier listing this one, I'm going to put this one into fantastic as well. It was a good episode. I enjoyed it. I think this is a nice one for someone to listen to again as a sort of tester feel of 8th Doctor and Lucy Miller adventures, and for audio adventures in general. I think this is a good sort of tester one because there's not too much in the way of the overall story arc. It's really just a self-contained story. I mean, they're all self-contained stories, but some of them have through lines similar to like the Bad Wolf thing popping up in series 1. It's just like that sort of little bits of continuity rather than the whole thing following one storyline. But yeah, this one's a good one for people to listen to just as and when. The MVP is Minerva. And the quote of the episode is one that originally was contender for quote of the season back when I was going to continue doing quote of the season for the audio adventures as well, before I realised it was impossible to choose. This one was a contender for that, and it's one of the first quotes I actually noted down from long before I decided to do these tier lists anyway. So the Doctor is talking to someone. Well, I'll be honest, I don't remember. And he says, "Nothing which gives people hope, strength and courage is stupid." I can't give you the context of the quote because that's spoilers, but I just think it's a really sweet thing to say. Next up is The 8 Truths. So this is the first of the 2-part finale of series 3, and this episode got a 3. It's not the best. The last 2 finales for audio adventures were both 5s. Both episodes of each one were 5. And this one just isn't up to that standard for me. I think it's to do with the villains of the finale, because I'm just not a big fan of this particular villain. And yeah, the episode itself I didn't enjoy as much. It was an episode, okay? I didn't dislike it, I just didn't like it. The opening of the episode was quite odd in this one. I usually like when we start mid-mystery and we have to sort of like figure out what's been happening and what's going on. But this one doesn't feel like it started mid-mystery so much as mid-adventure. I feel like we've missed an episode and we're already in the middle of the adventure and I'm a bit at a loss. It just didn't work for me. In the middle of the episode as well, there's a strange 23-day time jump. It feels a bit odd. I feel like this 2-part finale could have maybe been a 3-part finale, because then we wouldn't have felt so very mid-adventure in the beginning. We would have had a proper setup for it, and then we would have had the 23 days later bit, and then we would have had the finale. I feel like that may have worked better for me as a listener. I don't know about everybody else. Maybe everyone else loves this one. But for me, I think that would have worked a bit better, even though I don't like this finale, so I wouldn't want it dragged out into 3 episodes. I'm just saying that if it was, I think it would work better for me. That or the beginning bit of the episode should have been severely condensed into a tiny little introduction, and then we have the 23 days later bit. There's one bit where Karen is in this one, who met Lucy in the series 1 finale, and she was with the Headhunter in series 2. Karen's in this one, and she mentions to Lucy how there's been a big gap on her CV since she left the Headhunter. And that's something I've always wondered about Doctor Who companions, when they go off with him and in Earth years they're gone for a while, because how do they get jobs? What do they write on their CVs? How do they do anything? How do they actually survive? When they've just been missing or they randomly end up in another time and place, how do they just get back to life? And I don't mean mentally, how do they cope? I mean physically, how do they cope? Like Rose was missing for a year. After that first episode, it just brushed aside. Then Amy and Rory just end up in the past and they have absolutely no identities or anything like that. All these other things that happen like that. I just wonder how Doctor Who companions survive in general, you know? Back to the 8 Truths though, overall it wasn't an episode I very much enjoyed. It felt kind of disjointed and it was like it was jumping around all over the place. I wasn't really following it as easily as I would any other audio adventure. And I also feel like Lucy was entirely unnecessary in this story. This would have worked just as well, if not better, with anyone else in her place in the story. I just feel like she wasn't necessary at all. With any Doctor Who companion, and especially Lucy Bleeding Miller, you don't want to feel like that. You don't want to think they're unnecessary to the story, they're unnecessary to the plot. You just want to be able to sit back and enjoy it. Yeah, I wasn't so keen on this. So I think I'm gonna have to put this one... Oh, I don't want to do it. I was considering putting them into Wibbly Wobbly because it is iffy and it's not bad. However, because it is so disjointed and jumpy and you do kind of start mid-adventure, and again, the audio adventures are up to such a high standard that I've been pushing the scores down to try and adjust to make a nice general scores across classic audio and New Who. I think I might actually have to put this in Skaro Sewers. I think I might have to do it. I think it should go in Skaro Sewers. I feel terrible. I honestly didn't think that any audio drama, apart from the one that I already know about, would go into Skaro Sewers. And yet, this has. But it's only because the rest of them are so good that this stands out to me as not being as good. And it's even weirder because I gave it a 3. I didn't give it a 2 or even a 1, I gave it a 3. So it shouldn't really be there, but it is. It is there. It's in Skaro Sewers. I'm so sorry to everyone who worked on this. The MVP of the episode is Kelly Westwood. And the quote of the episode is a conversation between Kelly and the Doctor. And Kelly says, "Sneaky, you stole my book out of my bag." And the Doctor says, "I'm just borrowing it. Don't worry, I won't let any spoilers out." That's right, Doctor, we don't do spoilers in this house. The final episode is World Wide Web. So this episode got a 4. I did think it was better than the previous episode, but still not as good as other finales in the Audio Adventures series, or indeed in the classic or New Who runs. Yeah, I have issues with this altogether, but I think, again, it could just be because I don't like the villains. There's certain storylines you have to do with these types of villains, and I just didn't like it. It was possibly just because of that I wasn't really engaging with the story as much as I could have, or as much as other people might. But it still got a 4. It wasn't bad. So the villains of this finale are from a classic Doctor era. They are from, I think, the third Doctor era. I say I think, I know. I like the fact that in this, the Doctor, he does give a little tiny bit of backstory on these creatures. They're not expecting everyone to have watched all of Classic Who and to know who these creatures are and why they're anti-Doctor and stuff like that. So there is a nice little backstory given for that, just purely as a, if you haven't seen this, here's a little hint of what they are. There's a bit in this where Lucy telepathically communicates with the TARDIS and then she giggles about what the TARDIS thinks about the Doctor. I like it. I don't know what the TARDIS thinks about the Doctor, but I like the idea that Lucy's just communicating with the TARDIS and gossiping about the Doctor. It's quite funny. Only other thing I can say is that the ending scene goes straight into the next season by a box set. The first episode of the next box set I count more as a Christmas special between Series 3 and Series 4, which for me means it'd be part of Series 3, not Series 4. But I'm going by the Big Finish box sets on this one, unlike with New Who. So, yeah, I have to say it goes straight into the next season. But it's good. Overall, this episode is fine. I think I'm gonna have to put it into Wibbly Wobbly though. Yeah, I don't feel right about putting it anywhere else really, because considering the previous episode was so low, I can't really put this one into anything higher than Wibbly Wobbly because obviously this is only half the story. The episode itself is fine. I just would have liked more from the actual story. The story itself was there. It wasn't like a bad story. It's just not for me. Remember, this is my tier list and my opinions. You guys will have your own opinions if you've listened to these adventures. And if you haven't listened to these adventures, why not? I've been telling you to do it for ages. Anyway, World Wide Web is in Wibbly Wobbly. The MVP of this episode is Clark Goodman. And the quote of the episode, the final quote of Series 3, is the Doctor talking to someone who's asking why the villains are doing this. So someone is asking him why are they doing this, because people always ask that, and the Doctor gives them this answer. He says, why does anybody want supreme power? Inferiority complex, I imagine. They want power for its own sake, which makes them tricky to reason with. Sounds about right. Inferiority complex. Does kind of sound about right, doesn't it? Why else would you want supreme power? The only thing I want power over is my own life. I don't care what other people do with their own lives as long as they're not hurting anyone, you know? I don't understand why people want so much information on other people, why people want power over other people. The only thing it can be, as the Doctor says, is an inferiority complex. Why else would people want power over anyone else? Unless you just feel so inferior, you just want something to make you feel better about that. That or an old white paedophile who doesn't want to go to prison. So that is the end of the third series of audio adventures for the 8th Doctor and Lucy Miller, which means we only have one left to go. I think overall it's a decent season. It's definitely the weakest of the 4 seasons, which means it's only going to go up from here. But yeah, it's a decent season. It's not as good as the first one or the second one or the last one, but it is decent. There are definitely still some really good episodes in here. So taking a quick look at the season stats. The most common score for any episode was a 4, and the season average was a 4.11. Overall, it's still got a very good score for the season itself. I don't really see much of a problem with it. I think it's fine. But that's it. That is Series 3 of the Doctor Who 8th Doctor audio dramas, completely tier listed. Now we only have one final audio drama season left before we can move on to New Who. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Let me know if you have listened to any 8th Doctor audio adventures yet, if you have listened to this season, if you really love this season or really don't like it as much like I don't. Let me know what you think of the finale and whether you think I really shouldn't have put it in the Skaro sewers. I'm still debating over whether that was the right decision, but it's done now, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you next time for the final audio drama season we're going to be discussing, which is the 8th Doctor Audio Adventures Series 4.